So again, good afternoon, good day, everyone. This is Arnold, the host for AI with Ashok Podcast. And each week we dive into stories of different business leaders from the small business community. Whether you're tuning in on the go or unwinding at home, we're glad to have you with us on this journey. And for this week, we have a very special guest, Miss Sabina Sulovsky. I hope I pronounce it right.
Perfect.
She is a peak performance coach working with various business executives to optimize their performance when leading their respective organizations. Let's give them a warm welcome.
Thank you for that. Oh no, thank you for letting me be here.
All right, then. Thank you so much. So, Sabina, before we get started, I'd like you to introduce yourself for a little bit.
Sure. My name's Sabina. I'm British, but I live in Australia. I've been living here for 20 years, and I have a background in human physiology. So it's something that's really piqued my interest for the longest time. I use that to help busy leaders and executives to increase and optimize their performance using by basically aligning what's going on with the outside with what's going on the inside, their biochemistry, their brain waves. And when they work optimally, they can build the business, the business empire that they need. Because business doesn't, come about by accident. An empire needs to be built with strategy and really with a lot of planning. And I think a lot of that planning goes on the outside for marketing and sales. We forget that the actual driver of the business is be it the CEO, the leader, the owner of the business. And if they are failing in they haven't got the energy, then the business takes a toll. So I help people increase their mental and physical energy and capacity and efficiency so that they can build stronger, more resilient businesses.
Okay, that sounds good. And I would agree with you that for a business leader to be successful in his or her organization that he's, running, he needs to be, mentally and emotionally connected to his mind and body. So it's good to have that kind of program because that would ensure that the leader is making good decisions, right? So that's a very, very important aspect of, being a business leader.
100%, 100%.
Yes. All right then. So, what inspired you to become a peak performance and vitality coach?
So, as I mentioned, my background's in human physiology, and I studied that with the idea of the intention of being a doctor in my past life. However, my plan deviated. But what I see is that a lot of people work against their body chemistry. They work against their body and their body systems, which is the engine room of their driver. And then they end up working harder than what they have to. Their efficiency isn't as good. Their productivity isn't as good. Their brain doesn't work as optimally as it should, simply because they are not working with their body properly. And they're making themselves work a lot harder, um, more drain more energy than what they need to simply because they're not putting in or investing the right strategy and time in their health. They're making their life harder by working, by going conventional. In short answer to that is the reason why I started is I saw a lot of people that are making their life a lot harder than what it needs to be. Life can be very simple. You just have to simplify it.
Yeah. So, if I understand you correctly, Sabina, so it's like I want to be a wrestler, but my body is not a wrestler material. And your goal is to make sure that your mind and body goes or aligns with what you're actually doing. Is that right?
Then Arnold, you've got it 100% perfectly articulated. I think the majority of CEOs, CFOs, C-suite business owners, small business people even, we are making massive high demands of our mental and physical body. And we are not treating our mind and our body like high performing athletes. We're often feeding our body crap and expecting to get high performance out. It's just not. You're driving a Lamborghini and you're putting in, really cheap petrol. So it's with that analogy is, you can only expect quality out if you put the quality in. And I give people that strategy.
Yep, that's that makes sense. All right. So, what key values or principles guide your coaching philosophy?
I think it's working with your body instead of against it. So the most simplistic of physiological principles, by using those, that when your hormones peak at certain times, by making sure that that's when you do the bulk of your work that requires motivation, confidence, and energy. And then, basically being strategic about what you do with your day. So working simply, working with your body. I think that's the most that's the best way to put it, is working with you what your body's got already, with your systems, with your chemistry. Um, Simplicity. I think we're making things very complicated. So that's the biggest value, is just keep things simple. Um, Keep things simple.
Okay, that's good. And by the way, Sabina, if I may say something, I actually saw your profile in LinkedIn. I think I also saw your website, and you have a very interesting story. If I may ask this, how do you personally stay resilient and maintain peak performance in your daily life?
Interesting question. No one's ever asked me that, Arnold. I share a lot of my life outside, but um, well, I have a lot of coaches, to be honest. I have several coaches for mindset. I have a yoga coach. So I have, it's not something that I think that you can do. You can't build an empire alone. So I have a team of people that work with me. Um, and in terms of my own resilience, often, that goes down, but I have a proven toolkit of really simple techniques to make sure that I can pull myself out so that I'm in control. Because if you have a business and you are facing overwhelm or burnout or anxiety, or your confidence is struggling, you can't show up. You're going to find it very, very difficult. So, having a toolkit is how I keep myself um, on track, and just exactly, basically walking the talk, doing exactly the same as what I teach clients, having a team of experts to help you around mindset, nutrition, having someone that can, push you in the gym, having someone who works on different areas of your life. Because if you want to push really hard, if you want to get here, you have to be playing up here. You can't be not investing the right time and energy.
Wow, wow. Okay, so the way I understand it is that your program is very holistic. You don't just focus on the physical aspect, but you also focus on the mind and the emotions as well, right?
100%. So I studied NLP, and I'm studying with the International Coaching Institute as well. And basically working with your mind and, the limiting beliefs that we have from childhood, the negative emotions that come up, and looking at those and seeing them from a different perspective, and how we can actually use them to push us forward. Because often we are working on the same programming that what we created at the age of 7. And our goals have changed, our life's changed, our body's changed, our mind's changed, and we're working in this high pressure society, but we're still running the same software system as what we were 30 or 40 years ago. And then we struggle, we feel stuck. It's like basically, walking sludge. And it's because we haven't updated the software. So making that shift is extremely important. I think it's one of the most significant things you can do. Um, so I help people go through why they're actually having struggles with confidence, why they're actually um, they have these limiting beliefs that they're not good enough, or they don't know enough, or they don't deserve it, because those beliefs are not just, out of thin air. They bought into those beliefs as a child. And what we do is we help re-educate them about those beliefs so that they no longer stop them. So the mind is, and could talk about this forever, but you might be aware as well, Arnold, is that your mind is responsible for about 95 to 97% of your serotonin. So your serotonin is the feel good hormones. It's the neurotransmitter that makes you feel great. It makes you sleep. It helps you eat properly. It balances your weight. And that's produced generally by the gut. So if your gut's not working, your mind's going to be depressed, going to be anxious, going to be low confidence, all those things. So it's basically working with that. You need to work with that.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Now, what exactly is executive well-being coaching, and how does it benefit leaders and executives?
So at an executive level, our executive functioning is what basically most executives are employed for the making the big decisions, being really clear, having the strategy. So I work with those people because they are the leaders in their organization. And when you look at an organization, how it's structured, the stress levels, the mindset, everything comes from the top down. In fact, there was a research study that said that 87% of the stress felt in a organization comes from a leadership level. So by helping the leaders to help them take control over their executive functions, to make better decisions, and to actually just reduce their stress, then it's felt from the top down to the rest of the organization.
All right. Thank you so much for that. I know that you have already explained this earlier in brief, but can you walk us through what leadership resilience training entails, and what common challenges does it address?
Yeah, so a leader has to be very resilient because it's not a straight line in business. There are some, small predictable factors, but a lot of it is about being able to tolerate and to tweak things as we go along, particularly, when financial situations are not going as well as what we want. So we need to have that resilience, that buffer, so that when those things come along, we can find solutions. Um, by making sure that your body and your mind are working effectively and optimally, you're going to be much easier to find those solutions. Because when your body is working 100%, it has the right chemistry, it has the right brain waves, is then it pulls out all the stops for increasing creativity. So I don't know, Arnold, you might be aware, but sometimes when you're stressed, you can't think of solutions the same. But what happens is when your body is stressed, it takes away blood flow nutrients away from your brain, and it pulls them into areas that are essential for survival, which means that when a leader is stressed, if he can't buffer that stress, if he can't manage that stress, then it will affect how he thinks, how clear he thinks, and how he leads. And if there's someone who's guiding the business, who's the driver of the business, if the driver is feeling, is not able to go through that, then that becomes a problem. So making sure that they're resilient and they have the tools, they know that when life throws you those curveballs, you know how to dodge them, how to manage them, and in turn manage your people as well.
Very well. It might be related to my own personal experience because at one point in my career, I was actually working in the call center in the business process outsourcing industry. So, at one point in my career, I used to lead. I'm not yet in the executive level, but I used to lead a group of trainers and quality evaluators. And I realized that having been stressed, if you're stressed, you cannot make good decisions. right? So if ever I don't feel that I'm not making a good decision, what I do is I would, you know, take my mind off work for a while and just rest, because rest is, as what the other coach that I interviewed, rest is also as important as going to work. So it's important that rest, we need to take a break sometimes and, unwind, so that whenever you go back to work, you will be able to make better decisions. So just sharing.
Yeah, no, I think we don't realize how important rest is and, rest, breath, nutrition, all those things, because if we're neglecting those areas, a job that may be a task that might take an hour to do might only take might take us 40 minutes to do if we're working optimally. So we're saving time so that we can spend that time with our family members or doing something else we enjoy. So I think that's a great awareness that you have. And rest is just your brain, which is interesting, and maybe the other coach mentioned it, but when you're resting, your brain is when you're sleeping, you actually clear your toxins in your brain. So if you don't rest, then your brain ends up toxic. You can't make those clear decisions.
Yes, agree. Because I also observe some other people, like, those that are above me. What they do is that for them to cope with stress, they would binge eat. I also did that sometimes. Some people would also smoke, drink, just to cope their stress. And then I realized that, what? um it's important that you need to still maintain a good rest and also eat a balanced diet for you to be able to, make good decisions and be able to perform well in your work.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah. Anyway, so in your energy management program, so what strategies or tools do you recommend for sustaining energy throughout the day?
So again, working with your body. So your body has a set of biological clocks or cycles in your body, and that determines your energy. So what we do is we make sure that what you're doing on the outside is supporting your metabolism, and that's what creates your energy. Your mindset. So morning routines is something that I'm huge on, because morning routines is what primes your mind and your body for increasing energy, but also is it gives you the push that you need for mindset. So morning routines are something that I just that's one of the biggest things I can suggest for anyone to do, is to make sure that you take control of your morning routine and that you are being purposeful and you create it with the end in mind. If you want to, you know, if whatever you want to achieve is you basically put that intention in the morning routine and you create a morning routine around it. So if it's loads of energy, if it's confidence, there's a morning routine that will create that for you so that you can deliver that. Another thing is breath work. So even just breathing properly, when you're getting lots of different information from your body, and your brain is getting lots of different information. 11 million bits of information a second. And what it does is it deletes, distorts, and generalizes that according to your belief system. Now, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're taking charge of that and you're actually being intentional again about what you actually look at. So the same as your environment. If you're waking up in a stressed environment or you're looking at your phone, is your body or your brain is taking that kind of information, and it could be thinking, if you're looking at social media or news, or you're looking at, you know, the stock exchange or something like that, that's sending messages to your body that it's stressed, that there's something going on that's really life threatening. And so what it does then, it increases cortisol. It tells your body you're even more stressed. And often people do this. They basically are programming their mind and their body before they even get to work to be in a stress state. as we mentioned before, Arnold, when you're stressed, your brain reduces its ability or space to make really good, solid, creative decisions. And then it just becomes this massive feedback. So the morning routine and just being intentional about what you eat and what you expose your brain and body to. And food. Food is huge, huge.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much for that. Now, without naming specific people, Sabina, um, who are the kind of people that you were working that you are coaching? Like, are they working for huge companies like Fortune 500 companies, if I may ask?
Yeah. No, they're not Fortune 500. A lot of medium-sized businesses that are mainly their leadership team. I help their leadership team by just giving them some structure. So it's mainly people in medium-sized businesses. Um, a lot of finance people, people that are dealing with finance, because that's a very high stress job. And so that's they need to be able to be able to manage those kind of stress levels. Also, I see a lot of people in IT. IT, it doesn't, you don't even have to be in IT, but more and more now we're sitting at a desk, where we're just basically in that sort of stagnant way, and we're skipping meals or we're not taking account of movement. We're not prioritizing as I said, the engine, which is us. We're not prioritizing the engine. We're just sort of like in that. So IT professionals and business owners, and a lot of real estate as well, professionals I work with, because, by helping them to optimize, again, they're working, if you work smarter, you don't have to work as hard. So it makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, well, I was part of the IT sector, so I can certainly relate to the kind of stress that it brought, especially when you are catering to a lot of clients. So that was my experience before. Anyway, I'm just saying. Um, s-
I think that's a valid point, Arnold, because I think as well is and being in that when we this is why I love morning routines, right? Because the majority of the day we are in this society where the majority of the day rules us. But however, if you get up in the morning before everybody else, you actually have control over your day. And most people just wake up and the day controls them. The schedule, they're just basically wrapping around the schedule, and then they wonder why they're stressed. And stress is probably responsible for about 95% of disease. So it's basically just taking control, taking a bit of control.
oh my God. Yeah, because like I mentioned to you earlier, so I was working with the IT sector in the BPO industry for 18 years, and all those times I was working in the night shift most of the time. And not only that, the kind of stress that I had to deal with was very immenseful. So it developed lot of ailments and sickness in me. So yeah, so and that's what I'm dealing with right now.
I think as well is and this is to your listeners as well, Arnold, is that your body is, we talk about AI a lot, right? And this is AI with shock, but your body is extremely intelligent and we don't give it the credit it deserves. We are giving credibility to medicines, to AI tools, to all these different things, but we don't give enough credit to our body. And when it starts shouting or screaming or we're in pain, there's a reason why. It doesn't come for no reason. It's trying to communicate. It's trying to communicate. It's like a baby, right? If a baby cries, there's generally a reason, and we don't listen to it. And I think by listening to it and delving and exploring, which is what I do with leaders, once you find that root cause of the problem, it could be, what's that, the thorn in the lion's paw. Once you pull that and pull it out, then the lion can still be the lion.
Yeah.
But you have to start exploring rather than we look for band-aids like antidepressants or whatever without looking and seeing our own intelligence, what our body's trying to teach us. So seeing every pain as something that our body's trying to teach us.
All right. That's great. Thank you so much for that. So basically, we have to listen to our body. If our body is screaming, then we have to listen to it. So that's the lesson learned.
What
Anyway,
happens,
yeah.
Arnold? Sorry, I just interrupt, but first of all, it starts as a whisper and then it gets louder and louder. And eventually, and I've seen this actually with one client, he's been hospitalized for severe fatigue. So that's a risk factor for your business, right? If you're running a $1 million business and you can't be at the helm, I mean, one guy, you probably don't know him, but he heads a massive group here, huge, he's billionaire. But he had big mental and physical health problems. That cost him a lot. That cost the company a lot. That was a massive risk. So, when we see it from a financial point of view as well, aside from the fact that, it's not nice to feel like crap, is huge. Sorry, going back on a tangent.
All right then. Well, thank you for sharing that one. Now, how do you measure success or progress in your coaching programs?
Yeah, so each when I work with leaders, we always have a bar. So we set the metrics immediately of what they expect and where they're at. And this works on some really soft skills, such as how they are able to manage their stress. At the end of the day, can they sleep? And these really soft skills that nobody actually wants to look at, we look at those first and we see and we measure that sort of in weekly, monthly increments to see how it increases. For a lot of people, it's just like a couple of weeks, and the change is transformative. So it's very difficult to see it as a figure, which is not easy for CEOs or anything for leaders to see. But when they see that, maybe their anxiety was at 4, or they couldn't walk into a room, for example, without having palpitations, and now they can walk into a room and stand in front and give a presentation with, 9.9% confidence and trust in themselves. It's just so we measure that monthly. Also is when I work with the work in the workplace, we look at absenteeism as well and how the level of productivity in people. So if people, for example, are billing more hours, you know that they're either they've something's obviously going on. Um, and so the metrics are a little bit sort of more hazy than what most people. But once you've interpreted them or once you've explained how the metrics work, and you see that from the top down that once somebody is, 50% stressed, then there's less absenteeism, because I definitely had been in situations where I've hated my boss and I've taken time off. When you start actually to like the boss and the boss becomes a more understanding person, that stress is filtered down, plus the fact they become better communicators, they become more relatable, they're more compassionate.
That's great. I remember before when I was working in the corporate world, my manager told me that once you get into the top of the corporate ladder, you became less human. I'm not sure if that's true.
I think that is something that a lot of people feel, but I think that's something that needs to change, and it can change. We're told that stress is part and parcel of, in that corporate space. But who says? Just because everybody else did it before us, it does not mean that we don't have the ability to take control. Um, I think we're sold this idea and we buy into it. Oh, well, you have to be stressed. You have to be, sleeping 4 hours a day. You have to be working late at night. You have to. And I think most people are more invested in the actual belief of being stressed than they actually invest in actually trying to get rid or trying to do things a little bit more intelligently and work with their mind and their body.
Yeah. According to my colleague before, they would say sleep is for the weak. But I realize it is, yeah.
And that's it. But we look at now, and I haven't got the statistics in front of me, but brain cancer, for example, there's lots of cancers and things like that that are coming up. We've got more availability for supplements, for medicines, for medications, yet we're becoming an epidemic of brain injuries, right? There's more um cancers in our nervous system than what there's ever been. And like I said, if you have a system in your body called the glymphatic system, and it's your internal plumbing system for your brain, it cleans everything out. If that doesn't activate in deep sleep, then you're walking around trying to make good decisions with basically, 2 weeks worth of garbage in your brain. And then you worry that, and then we're told, oh, well, don't worry about sleep. It's a very old-fashioned way of thinking, I think. I think it's quite masculine. Um, but yeah, times changing, I think. Um,
Yes, agree. Anyway, what is the common misconception about well-being and resilience in the workplace that you wish more people understood?
so I think people think that being resilient means being tough and putting a brave face on and just accepting it. And that is not what I believe at all. I think there's always a way around it. Um, so I think being resilient is actually being able to take it with some grace, look at for a solution, and use the problem to find the solution. Um, the other question, what was the other question? Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Oh, yeah, sure, sure. So like I said, what is the common misconception about well-being and resilience in the workplace that you wish more people understood?
Yeah, so I think well-being as well is they think it's a bit wishy-washy. Um, and often for businesses or corporates, it's sort of seen as something that you really just do to sort of like make it sounds great if you've got a wellness corporate plan. That said, they don't realize that if they actually work with their body, like I said, their body will work with them. It will give you what you want. Your body's designed to deliver what you want. It's meant to give you what you want. It's there, it's got your back, it's there to serve you. But if you are telling it that you are being, and our body is still, there's lots of different levels and layers to our body. It still thinks if we're in stress, it thinks it's been chased by a saber-toothed tiger. It's not going to make babies. It's not going to have digestive issues. It's not going to let your mind function properly because it is trying to survive. And too many people are in survival. And then, when you're in survival, your mind, your body it thinks what it's doing what you want, which is to survive, and you're wanting to thrive. So, you know, I think I think well-being needs to be seen as I think it's the number one business investment, to be honest. I think well-being is a business investment. And if somebody wants to increase the performance of their business, they need to look at starting to increase the performance of their well-being programs, because that's where you will really, I think, and when people feel heard, seen, um, then they work better. When they're more collaborative, they're more creative, they come up with more ideas, they brainstorm more. So well-being seen as quite fluffy, but it's actually it's a business investment that will increase productivity and profitability.
All right, then. Thank you so much for that. Now, can you share a success story from your work that left a lasting impact on you?
Yes, I was working with a guy who had a global IT company. He was yeah, a global IT company, and he was approaching 60, and he was looking at he wanted we looked at his so I one of the things I offer is I look at everybody's biochemistry, so everybody's blood chemistry, and he was suffering with low testosterone. So testosterone, we think about it as the sort of sex hormone, but there's so much more to testosterone, because testosterone is what gives men the drive. It's what gives you the decision making, the motivation. And his testosterone was very low. and he had a job that required him to be on all the time. So you haven't got, literally, it's like, you haven't got the ingredients to give you that drive. So you've got to push harder than what, somebody else has. So what we did is we looked at what he was eating, how he was sleeping, and his and how he was just basically, talking to himself, because he was very cruel to himself. He was highly stressed. Once we took that down, and reduced his weight, so your pad, if you're carrying extra weight, particularly for a man, what that does is it starts producing female hormones, and that basically displaces the male hormones. So most men require that male hormone, that testosterone, to push, push, push. But because they're carrying weight, particularly around their tummy, they don't have it. They have more of the estrogen. They have more of the female hormones, which is them causing them to be, not make those clear decisions. So we looked at him. We cut his weight down. We put him on a really good healthy routine. He started going to the gym at the right times and timing on very, like I said, clocks. We work at the right times to building muscle. So muscle helps with testosterone. And his testosterone went through the roof. And he not only looked and felt like, well, he said he felt 20 years younger. He looked definitely 10 years younger. And this was in a matter of 2 months. And his levels had gone back up to normal for testosterone. So he was then being more manly, right? And those CEO roles, and this is not, I'm a woman, but whatever it is you need sometimes to make those really clear decisions. You need that sort of testosterone kick, right? And he had it. All of a sudden, he had the biochemistry, he had the ingredients to do what he needed to do. Everything changed for him. So for him, his business has gone, he's now in Dubai. So he's got offices all over the world now. But that for him was he needed more direction. We got a really clear strategy. So he knew exactly what time to wake up, how to feed himself, what to feed himself. The most simplistic things, but when done right, and once he got those habits and behaviors in place, it was he was off to the races. So he was extremely happy. He comes back every now and again. I visited him recently, actually in Dubai, and yeah, it's just that was the game. That was great for him. It was an investment in his business. His business is doing, I think, 67% he's seen the last couple of years, because he's increased in having people. He's got more staff. He's earning more money. He's got more officers. And that started by him taking care of the foundation, which was his energy levels. So
Wow.
pretty massive, really. Yeah. Should have
That's
bought in his.
awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. And to be honest, I didn't know that men produces female hormones. All I know is that we produce testosterone.
Yeah, no. And that's, I think, I work with a lot of men. I have two kids, two boys, and probably I get, I have good relationships with men, but it's about the testosterone, is that there's a fine balance. You have testosterone and estrogen in your body, and we're the same. But there's certain things that we can do to increase our testosterone. So if we need more motivation, if we need more discipline, there's certain exercises we can do to do that. By the same token, for men, is if they're wanting more testosterone, or if they're wanting, maybe they're over testosterone, maybe they're over motivated, they can pull back. Um, but having control over that, and people do have control. There's foods, yeah. So making sure the balance is right. So there's men walking around with more estrogen than what they should have, and then and then it's very hard for them, because they feel more testosterone hormones are what they feel more sensitive to certain things, and it's not their fault. They just don't know their biochemistry is not working. It's like being, their biochemistry is not working for them.
All right then. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, what simple tips or habits can our viewers start today to boost their energy and resilience?
Yeah, great question. So I think the first thing is is for them to know where they actually want to go. So if somebody is wanting, what do they need in the day? So it could be if you're doing a presentation one day, for example, you need confidence. If you are just making lots of decisions, you need to be able to be really decisive. So knowing what you want out of the day every single day is really good because that you can use that as fuel to actually prime your mind and your body so that it sees you do that. Um, so an interesting fact is that your brain in the first half hour of the morning is in something called the alpha zone. So that means that everything that you suggest to your brain, it takes on as the truth. So making sure you hack that. If you're wanting confidence, you tell your brain you want confidence. If you're wanting, you create your morning routine with the end in mind. Secondly, I'd say is have a look at your at what you're actually feeding yourself and hydration. And how you're breathing. So we look at breathing. Well, food you can last 2 weeks without food, water 3 days, but breath only like 3 minutes. So making sure that you're doing really good breathing, like deep and clear breathing. Your food, energy in, energy out. If you're eating donuts and you're expecting your body to perform like a athlete, you're kidding yourself. And that's what most people do, or they'll skip meals. So go and see a nutritionist, or even just, look on the web. There's lots of information about what food you need to do to fuel your mind and body. Fish oil is really good for your brain. So lots of fish oil, lots of green, dark leafy vegetables, and protein, optimizing protein, because that's what everything in your body, particularly your enzymes and your hormones like testosterone, all those hormones, they work with different enzymes as well. And what else? And then keep hydrated. Um, when you're the rate of dehydration. So when you are dehydrated by just 1%, they found a 10% reduction in cognition. So if your body's 60% water, and you wake up in the morning, and if you don't drink water and you don't replenish the water that you lose overnight, you are forcing your body to work harder than what it has to because it has nothing left. And then everything becomes a struggle. So maintaining that you're hydrated, like it's the most simplistic of things, but maintaining that you're really hydrated, because there's water is what we need for your brain is 70%, I think 70% water. Your body is 60% water, your heart, your lungs, all water. And if you lose water, then all those things, everything has to work a lot harder. So making sure you're hydrated.
All right, then. Thank you so much for that. Now, for those leading teams, what's your advice in fostering resilience and well being within their organization?
So leaders, it's the leaders who I would talk to, because everybody's watching you and you set the culture. Um, and so if you are dealing with stress, look at how you can actually remove that stress. Maybe it is something that you've been dealing with for the whole of your life and you've just been winging it. But if you can deal with your stress and find out where it's coming from, then that will not only help your performance, but your team will work so much better because you'll be more open, and you'll be able to understand where they're coming from. So I think looking at leadership and seeing that and you have control, you do have a choice. It's a choice. I think we're told we not have a choice. So if leaders can just sort of have a look at how they can reduce their stress, even just by 1% a day, just 1%. But if you look at the knock-on and cumulative effect of that, if you reduce your stress 1% a day for 364 days a year, it's a massive transformation and it can completely transform your business.
All right. Thank you so much. Now, how can someone who's interested in your services get started? And can you share more about the process and where they can reach you?
Sure, yeah. So they can go to my website, which is sabinasulovsky.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. So reach out, and I work with people generally for 6 months. And like I said, it's a mind and a body transformation, not just one or the other. So yeah, reach out there. We do generally go online, or I work with a lot of businesses in person if you're based in Australia.
All right then. And lastly, do you have any upcoming programs, workshops, or events that our viewers can join in to experience your coaching firsthand?
Yeah, so next year, starting in January, I'm going to be doing every week a workshop on LinkedIn, just a lunch and learn. It's completely free. Come along, but I can guarantee you'll get something out of it.
All right then. Okay, so that wraps up our interview, Sabina. I really appreciate your time for this interview. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Arnold. Thank you.
Thank you.